I've made a ton of videos on why Star Citizen is amazing, and one of the main arguments I make comes from one of Star Citizen's core design philosophies. An open world sandbox built for emergent gameplay, because everyone sees what everyone else sees. If you drop a gun under a tree on a mountain, I can go pick it up later. It's ambitious, but it's that ambition that makes the game so unique. They've been uncompromising on that mission for so long, even spending years working towards things like server meshing to accommodate a massive world where every player exists in the same space. And after showing the game to new players, it's the first thing they bring up of why they thought it was so cool. But in this year's CitizenCon, CIG drove further into a feature that fundamentally pushes against this design: instancing. I'm going to explain why I think instancing will work, but it will fundamentally ruin the dream of Star Citizen. So let's quickly reiterate why Star Citizen is so unique. When I first booted into Star Citizen, I woke to a world that felt like it didn't exist for me. It existed with or without me. I was stepping into something bigger than I had before. The high fidelity assets helped, but seeing other players coming in for a landing outside the spaceport window made me feel like just a small piece of this world. Then I started to realize everything that's happening is happening for everyone. Someone just took down a comm array in space, which tracked illegal behavior, and now I could get up to no good without getting in trouble. Someone's actions far away were still affecting me to a small degree, letting my mind understand that this was a universe, not just broken up pieces of gameplay. I could see which way you were looking through a window in a spaceport where someone on the planet could be looking up at that exact spaceport we're at. Not a fake or a different version, the exact one we're at. These magic moments are what caused CIG to develop object container streaming and a 64-bit star system. These magic moments are what separates Star Citizen from other games. When you walk into a dungeon in other MMOs, you may be put into a different dungeon than me. It's okay for a lot of games, but in Star Citizen, this breaks the immersion of the continuous world around you, breaking it into smaller pieces, making the world feel disjointed. Again, avoidance of this is one of the fundamental things that made Star Citizen so unique, even guiding other design decisions in smaller areas, like the spaceport even having windows to begin with, or having NPC dialogue be the same for all players.
Otherwise, yeah, I'm sure what to tell you.
These small things create a unified and complete world. It's been the main pillar the game stands on as its foundation. But a while ago, CIG mentioned instance dungeons, which was frustrating to me, but even then I said I can look past that. I don't have to interact with them, and they're tucked away inside buildings where my experience in the promised sandbox was unaffected by people choosing to interact with this experience. Whether I personally liked it or not, I could logically rationalize the existence of instance dungeons within the world CIG was promising to build. But then at CitizenCon this year, they expanded on those plans, dropping a design-changing bomb. Entire areas of space could be instanced, meaning you could end up quantuming into an area of space that's instanced without knowing that it was instanced.
Could be also a quantum jump into an instance that you don't even see.
My example of leaving something for another player now no longer works, as if they try to retrieve that item I left behind, they could end up in a different instance where that item doesn't exist. If a bunch of players get into a massive space battle and there's a bunch of debris left over, I could go there and see the story of this thing that happened, but now if it's instanced, I might go there and not see that this massive, great epic battle happened. I lose the immersion of seeing you run over to a mission giver and hearing the conversation of you getting your mission, creating a sense of aliveness in the space around me as other players go about their busybody work, because I might just be in a different room than you. These instanced areas can now directly affect my interaction with the experience the game promised. To solidify my concern, the instancing section was immediately followed up with a section that I can almost only call gaslighting. They spent time trying to justify this decision and saying, no, the game always needed this foundational support, ignoring the foundation that already made the game so successful to begin with. They mentioned the reverse of the scenario.
If we'd have made a game that was all instance, and then I'd come on camera and said, hey guys, we're going to start doing it open world, it would be like, oh, is the game changing? Are we doing open world now? Is open world the new North Star that's going to take us this way?
Well, yes, that's the entire argument against the decision, not an example of why it's okay to do it. The game would have been designed around that instancing, just like Star Citizen has been designed around no instancing, and sold to us as that. If they didn't think instancing contradicted the game's core design philosophy, then they wouldn't have needed this section at all. Its pre-recorded existence in this CitizenCon alone should be enough to show you that they know there's a logical disconnect with this system and the game's main draw.
How we reconcile instancing with the persistent universe. Like, for the last 10 years now, we've been building this giant, seamless, persistent universe where everybody can come in and play together. And it would be easy to have a first instinct reaction to the idea of instancing and say that's antithetical to everything that Star Citizen.
Yes, it would be easy, because it is. They're adding a new pillar and acting as if it was there all along. And before people say that I'm a whiny PvPer who wants to grief, I don't do PvP, like at all, unless it emerges from other players. I never pirate, and I always try for peace with voice comms if I come across other players, so we don't shoot each other. And I mostly do missions that are PvE, or activities like mining. But these activities are exciting because I know that something could throw a wrench in my plans at any moment, even if it goes smooth at the end of the day. The anticipation adds emotional investment into my play session. An argument I saw against my concerns was that it would be used for story moments only, but that wasn't evident, at least to me, in the presentation. It was left that this could encompass many normal experiences, not just story beats.
This technology can also be applied to unlock curated PvP experiences that are as seamless as the PvE ones.
If you don't mind the theme park experiences and MMOs, then this whole thing probably won't concern you. But the fact that they're willing to change such a fundamental aspect of the game should raise alarms that they might be willing to sacrifice more in the future that you do care about. If the game ends up being only 5% instanced, this of course makes interactions with these instanced areas rare, making my concerns minimal. And as Richard Tyrer said, it's easy to get myopic, and right now what feels like 30% of the game being instanced might turn into that 5% acceptable level that I was talking about once we get things like base building and organization activities. But the problem I have is that even then, it's been pushed from 0% to 5%. How can I now trust that it won't increase more and more in the future? But they mentioned some small areas, say like bars, could be affected by this. And what if a player wants to hang out in this bar as a role player and never leave there? And you can always reliably go to that bar, and there he is, good old John, role playing away, sharing stories with other players. But with instancing, you might walk into that bar and be in the wrong instance, and now you're not getting that experience of the legend of John at the bar. They're taking away opportunities for those things to happen with instancing. I think there are plenty of other options before instancing that they could have tried. The only way I can really reconcile these instanced areas coexisting in the open world sandbox universe of Star Citizen is if it's just for story beats and new player tutorials. And when I say story beats, I mean main story beats. The reason I don't think they're going to do this though is that they'll eventually need a solution to 800 million players all flying to the same area, and I imagine instancing might be their long-term solution to this. If they do use instancing for more than just story beats, this also brings up another issue: balancing. These instanced missions would need to only provide rewards or outcomes that could be gained through other experiences that are not instanced, so that players are not required to forego the original scope of the game being an open world game just to get it. The issue that arises here is that the instance version needs to not be any easier or harder than the other reward route. Otherwise, you punish PvE players choosing to do the instanced version if it's harder, or you force other players into instanced gameplay if the instanced route is easier, lest they handicap themselves by choosing to avoid the instanced reward route. The reason I was always so excited to have new friends explore this game with me is now at risk of being false. I can't claim the things I did before to promote this game because it's just potentially not true. And maybe the solutions and compromises that I mentioned just a moment ago are their actual intentions, and they've just not communicated that as clearly as they could have. Don't worry, I'm not a Star Citizen doomer now. Let's be clear, instancing in the game will work. Plenty of other MMOs do it, but that's the problem. SC was aiming to not be like other MMOs, and that's one of the core principles that made it unique. But I do think this could be, if handled incorrectly, a monumental shift in a direction that serves against the game's core design philosophies. We might be in a world where what CIG wanted to do just isn't possible, and I accept that, and if they have to make those changes, they have to make those changes. Game development is ever-changing, and I applaud them for trying this hard for so long. But whether those changes have to or don't have to happen, it doesn't change the fact that it does go against what they've tried to do and that core fundamental design philosophy that the game had for so long. And I think that's something that should be talked about. And if any developers are listening, of course I don't know everything about the internal development, but CIG's always said that this is being built with the community. And I think it's important for us to raise concerns when we have them. And I hope this discussion didn't come across as too harsh, because I still hope and believe in the game. So if you have any other solutions or even disagree, please, I'd absolutely love to see your thoughts and discussion civilly in the comments below. I love talking about game design philosophy, so if that's your thing, whether you agree or disagree, it'd be cool if you join me for other videos videos or some of my past ones. And if you liked the video enough, I have an extended version of it on Fourth Wall, where I go over some solutions that CIG could have attempted before instancing. You can join the other Fourth Wall members that help me dedicate time to making videos discussing game design. They compete in monthly tournaments across multiple games to win prizes and get access to scripts like this early. Thank you for watching and listening to me ramble on.